So yesterday on Instagram, I asked, what big questions do you have in your leadership role right now? Biggest questions about your leadership role right now. And I'm going to go through some of the questions and responses that I've got. I'm going to pick out the ones I think that will be most helpful for everyone. Okay, this is a big one to start with. I have 2 colleagues, both married, having an affair. That breaks my heart and makes me want to just despair all at the same time. However, it's not uncommon. Like, it is more common than you would think. Any words of wisdom this person has said? So this exact scenario hasn't happened to me before, but something similar has. 2 people on my team were seeing each other. They weren't married, but one of them did have a partner, and it was starting to impact the team internally. The thing that happened that ended up kind of coming to head was they had an argument. They fell out. They stopped seeing each other, and these were actually 2 really quite influential members of the team. Like, everyone kind of looked to them, listened to them, saw them as big key players for the company culture. So it was really had a big ripple effect and impact on the full team. The advice I got at the time, so I had a leadership mentor at the time, and she said to me, what you cannot do as a team leader, as a manager, is start dictating what people do outside of work. If those people have an affair, it's shitty, does not align with our personal values whatsoever, but actually it's none of our business. However, that being said, it cannot impact their work, and that's the part that you need to take control of and speak to them about. So I would have a conversation with them and say something along the lines of and I would be quite stern with this as well. Even though this is what I'd say. Even though what you guys are doing strongly disagrees with my personal values, I actually am washing my hands of it. Like, I don't care. Whatever you want to do outside of work in your personal life, you go for it. And I'm not going to put any judgment over that, and I'm actually not going to dictate what you can do whatsoever. It's up to you. However, if I start noticing this bleed into our company culture, if I start noticing people feeling awkward, if you're prompting them to feel awkward, if people start to be kind of stuck between sides, if you 2 have a fallout and it ends up really impacting the culture of work, that's when I will get involved. And if it's not going well, you're going to get pulled up on it. So yeah, that's all I would say. My words of wisdom would be, this is kind of like when I say deal in facts and not drama, which is try as best possible to not get involved in the personal side of what's going on. I know it's difficult because it's a highly emotional situation and everyone has very kind of strong views and opinions on it, but try really hard to just wash your hands of the personal side of it, because ultimately you can't get involved in that. You can't tell them. It's not your job to deal with that. But deal with the work side of it very clearly. Have a very clear, honest conversation with them both in the room and just say, the second I notice this bleeding into work, the second I notice this having a negative impact on our culture, we will be back in this room and we will be discussing what on earth we're going to do about it together. And it could result in one of them losing their job. And so I think that's just where I would go. I would have a very, probably quite stern, very honest conversation with them both in the room. But it's not a nice situation to be in. Right, the next one. When to give up on a company due to executive leadership toxicity despite loving your team. This comes up a lot. This actually came up on the Fresh Start Q&A last week, which was, at what point is enough enough? At what point do you try your best to be an incredible manager, but because of your seniors, you can't do any of the great things you want to do? And for me, we all discussed this, the group of managers discussed this together on the live, and everyone kind of said it's at the point where you are no longer growing. So it might be that you're in a semi-toxic environment, but if your salary's growing, if your skills are growing, you might think, actually, it's worth it. I'm going to stick it out. I'm not loving it, but I'm going to stick it out. Or it might be the opposite side, where your salary's not growing, but your skills are growing, or you do like the environment, but your skills and salary aren't growing. But I always think when all 3 stop growing, your kind of love for your company, your salary and your skills, go, like, end, done. You need to continue growing. So this person specifically has said they're in a toxic workplace, but they actually really love their team. I would just ask yourself, like, what do you love more? Do you love your team, or do you love, like, the future life that you're building for you and your family? Because if you're in a toxic environment, whilst, yes, you love the team you've got at the minute, you're not doing it for them. Like, we don't go to work and, like, put ourselves through the stress of being a manager and, like, impacting other people just to please a small team unit that we have. Like, it has to be part of a wider picture. And if we stop growing, there's going to be a point in the near future where you don't love your team anymore, because you're going to start getting tension because they want more from seniors and you can't help them as well as you can now. So I also always think, like, when you start asking the question, is it time to leave? That should probably tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
When in major growth mode, so this one's a bit more positive. So when in major growth mode, how can I be the stability and balance for my team? So major growth mode should be exciting. I appreciate it might mean everyone's roles are a bit less clear because everyone has to take on a bit more, but it should mean you can hire more. So it should mean that as you kind of grow, whether it's revenue, client numbers, whatever, yes, people's roles might chop and change, but you should be able to keep, like, the level of resource needed per person to a good level because you can bring more people in. Growth mode should be nothing but positive, because there should be really fast opportunities for people to, like, become more senior or take on a team or, move into roles that they never thought they were going to take on. So growth mode should be all positive. Like, it means you've got more resource to do more with and give people more and grow more. That being said, it can be stressful, and I think always I spoke about this on my last video, but decide what side you're on. And I always think people should side with their team. And so if you have, like, a lot of direction changes coming from above, so say this week we're doing XY strategy, next week we're doing Z strategy, and we're changing the vision all the time and the values and the clients and our direction all the time, try to be the filter from above to say, like, okay, well, this also changed 2 weeks ago. If I tell my team this, can we commit to doing that for at least 6 months? And just be like that really positive filter, so that all the change that comes from above and all the direction that comes from above kind of ends with you. I always think as well, like, when a company is going through something, and it could be like going through a big change, or a company's toxic, or a company has a really bad gossip culture, blame culture, meeting culture. When you want to change something, do it in your team first. So try to keep your team as stable as possible. Don't focus on anything wider than that. So just focus on your team. And I always think with stability, it's like just stability and direction. So could it be that instead of having weekly goals or weekly trading meetings or weekly review meetings, you just do it monthly, so it gives people more time to kind of stay focused and directed on that thing? If you have daily stand-ups, I actually think daily stand-ups can be really toxic, because they're just, I don't know if anyone's ever, they're just pointless. Personal opinion, controversial opinion, daily stand-ups are pointless. But it also doesn't give, a day is like not enough time for people really to explore something, get things done. I don't know, I feel like people, and you want to kind of have more control over your week. Like, you might have a down day and an up day, and an up day you might be able to get 3 times as much done as on a down day. And you kind of, when you do the daily stand-ups, you feel like a pressure to get loads done. So maybe just elongate the, like, time span for things. So instead of having, like, weekly goals, it's monthly goals. Instead of having daily goals, it's weekly goals. But I guess lastly, just remember, like, our team don't do as we say, they do as we do. And so if we become stable, if we become less reactive, like more proactive, more pushing back, filtering from above, not panicking, not being super reactive with our emotions, they will do the same. Like, they will also watch it the same. How do you stop the gossiping? I guess similar to before, like, you can't, if you're in a big corporate, you're never going to stop gossiping across the entire company. But what you can do is stop it in your team. For me, the easiest way to stop gossip is encourage the person saying it. You have to become like a a robot, a like real secure force for not allowing gossip to be part of you and your work. So I would say, like, if you hear gossip, just say, call them out. Something like, I'd really encourage you to go and speak to the person about that, because I'm sure they want to know, and it's really interesting information. And I think they'd really want to know that. So encourage people to go and speak to others about it. Just don't allow it to perpetuate. Like, if you're in a situation with gossip, if it feels too uncomfortable to call it out, go and speak to them separately afterwards and just say, you made me feel really uncomfortable then, because that person isn't here, and like, I just don't love gossip and I don't love being around it. In a management position, like, I would also encourage in the moment. So like, when you hear it, don't wait, don't bottle it up for an appraisal, don't bottle it up for like an end of week one-on-one. Speak to them about it there and then. So as soon as that meeting's over, if you gossip while you're drinking coffee in the morning, if you ever hear gossip, speak to them about it then. Like, I don't accept gossip in my team, and I'd really encourage you to speak to that person about what you said then, because they really want to hear it. I'm going to leave it there for today. I've still got some more great questions, so I might do another video later in the week. But as always, guys, like, I want to hear from you. You are the experts just as much as I am. I don't know anything more than you. We're all on this learning journey together. So if you have any comments, if you have any advice, any words of wisdom for the people who've asked these questions, please drop it in a comment below, because I know it would be really, really helpful for them. Okay, thank you.